The internet is full of strange and unusual stories, and one of the most popular categories involves supposedly bizarre laws. Let's dive into one of the internet's favorite dumb law legends. This one centers around the state of Alabama, and it's a doozy. Alabama supposedly made it illegal to drive a car while blindfolded. It sounds like a joke, right? The kind of thing your uncle would say after too much eggnog while regaling the family with his latest outlandish story. The image is hilarious. Some guy in Alabama, bandana over his eyes, completely unable to see the road ahead, blasting Lynyrd Skynyrd, windows down, not a care in the world, barreling down a country road. It's a recipe for disaster and a truly absurd scenario. It's the kind of story that gets passed around as proof of how weird laws can get, a testament to legislative overreach and common sense gone astray. But here's the twist. Stories like this, the ones that seem too ridiculous to be true, usually aren't. They're often exaggerations, misinterpretations, or outright fabrications. We love to believe lawmakers had to step in and say, hey, driving is a looking activity. That someone actually had to propose and pass a law to prevent such an obviously dangerous act. Before we go further, let's just savor that ridiculous mental image because, as you'll see, it's built on pure nonsense. It's a funny thought, but is there any truth to it? So, is there really a law on the books in Alabama that specifically prohibits driving while blindfolded? Or is this just another tall tale, a modern-day urban legend? Let's put on our detective hats and dive into the legal archives to find out. The question keeps popping up. Does Alabama really have a law that bans driving while blindfolded? It sounds wild, but the truth is a bit more nuanced. There's no law that mentions blindfolds by name, but that doesn't mean it's allowed. To get the facts, we dug into Alabama's laws, especially Title 32, which covers motor vehicles and traffic. We pored over every statute, every regulation, searching for any mention of blindfolds or similar stunts. And here's what we found. Alabama law doesn't need to spell out no blindfolds. Title 32 makes it illegal to drive in any way that endangers people or property. That includes driving blindfolded, even if it's not named directly. So the famous blindfold law is really just a misunderstanding. The law is broad on purpose. It covers all sorts of reckless acts, not just the ones you might imagine. That's why reckless driving laws exist. They're designed to catch any dangerous behavior behind the wheel, whether it's driving blindfolded, texting, or something even stranger. If you did try to drive blindfolded, you'd be charged with reckless driving on the spot. The law doesn't need to list every wild idea someone might try. You'd be putting everyone at risk, and the police would treat it as a serious offense. No loopholes, no technicalities. The law is there to protect people from dangerous drivers, no matter how creative or reckless they get. So, while there's no blindfold law by name, Alabama's reckless driving statute covers it completely. The myth comes from not realizing how these general laws work. The law relies on common sense and broad language to keep everyone safe. That's why you won't find a law for every possible act of bad judgment. So, there was never a heated debate in the Alabama legislature about blindfolded drivers. The law already had it covered, no need for a special rule. This is a classic urban legend, a funny story that gets the details wrong. The real law is much more practical and far-reaching. The truth is, Alabama's laws already handle dangerous driving no matter how it happens. That's the real safeguard. The legend falls apart when you look at the law itself. It's a tall tale, not a loophole. So where did this myth come from? In the early days of cars, daredevil stunt shows where huge drivers would perform blindfolded stunts at fairs, including in Alabama. These were tricks, not real blindfolded driving, but the spectacle made headlines. Over time, stories of these stunts blurred into local legend. Add in the internet's love for wacky law lists, and suddenly a stunt becomes a supposed law. Someone probably saw an old article about a blindfolded driving act and assumed it was outlawed. Once it hit the web, the myth spread like wildfire. That's how a magic trick became a legal legend. Let's address a question that, while seemingly absurd, needs a clear answer. Just because there's no specific blindfold law explicitly prohibiting driving while blindfolded doesn't mean it's legal. The absence of a law doesn't automatically grant permission. Think of it this way. Laws are often in place to address actions that are reasonably foreseeable as dangerous. Driving blindfolded is reckless driving, plain and simple. It demonstrates a complete disregard for the safety of yourself and everyone around you. It's an action that puts lives at risk. You'd be arrested, likely facing serious charges, fined, potentially a very substantial amount, maybe jailed. depending on the severity of the situation and the judge's discretion, and definitely lose your license. Your driving privileges would be revoked, and you'd have to go through a lengthy process to reinstate them, if ever. The law expects you to use common sense. It assumes a certain level of responsibility and awareness. Driving without sight is the very definition of wanton disregard for safety. It's an act of extreme negligence. If you cause an accident, you're civilly liable for damages, meaning you'd be responsible for covering all the costs associated with the accident, and your insurance won't help. They would likely deny any claim related to such an irresponsible act. The consequences are severe, far beyond a simple traffic ticket. We're talking about potential criminal charges and significant financial repercussions. The absence of a specific law isn't a loophole. It's lawmakers trusting that no one would be so incredibly reckless as to attempt such a thing. So no, you absolutely cannot legally drive blindfolded in Alabama, or for that matter, anywhere else in the civilized world. Some things are so obviously dangerous and defy common sense that they don't need to be explicitly spelled out in the legal code. Please, for your own safety and the safety of others, don't even consider trying it. The Alabama myth is fun, but real driving laws can be even stranger. In California, it's illegal to jump from a car going 65 miles per hour. In Denmark, you must check for children under your car before starting it. Germany fines you for running out of gas on the Autobahn. In Costa Rica, you can drink alcohol while driving, just don't get drunk. Manila bans driving on Mondays if your license plate ends in 1 or 2. Nevada outlaws riding camels on highways. Alaska bans tying dogs to car roofs. These laws are real and each has a story behind it. They show how lawmakers react to the weirdest problems. Sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction. So why do these odd laws and legends matter? They're more than trivia. They're windows into our culture and history. Each law, real or imagined, tells us what people once feared or valued. The Alabama blindfold myth reflects our love of spectacle and our tendency to believe a good story. These tales remind us to be skeptical and check facts before sharing. They show that laws are made by real people, reacting to real, and sometimes ridiculous, problems. The legal system isn't perfect. It's human, quirky, and always evolving. Behind every statute is a story about who we are. That's what makes these laws, and the myths around them, worth talking about. And that's no joke.